truth, because this was my fault if this doesn't work. But I'm gonna bet Josh hooked us up. Josh hooked us up. There you go. The guy who's down for the count with sodium, with potential heartburn, or not potential heartburn, I'm sure heartburn. Thankfully, his heart didn't stop. I have seen some texts from him this morning, so I know he's okay. But good for you, Josh. Good for you. 100 pizza bites, Adam. 100 pizza bites. What do you think he's going to do today? Lay on the couch?
Most likely, yeah, because that's pretty gross, and I imagine it takes like a full day to recover.
Yeah, I just can't even comprehend. I mean, like if you're outside all day and you're drinking beers and you're having a bunch of chips and whatever, and then that next day you just feel awful. That's how he's gonna feel.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, we're gonna get going here. I'm gonna get the tweet out, all that fun stuff. Apologies for the little sound or the little issues there, but we have a new computer here for Adam. This is very exciting. You're getting a new computer. You're getting a new place to live. You're gonna get a new car. Condia, I think, might be selling a Lambo for the cheap.
Yeah, no, mine's paid off, so I'll probably just drive that into the ground.
Yeah, I did that with my last one. I'm driving my 4th car ever and my first new car. So there you go. I live in a gigantic house, but have my 6th ever phone and my 4th ever car. There you are. That's how you live in a big ass house. It's always fun. All right, let's get some of these windows open here. We, of course, are the Osmo DFS strategy show. We've got 16 games on today's slate. We will be going game by game through these because there is a doubleheader, and it is actually on both slates. The neat thing about Yahoo, one of the presenting sponsors here, is you can choose in the early game if you want the batters from the first game or the second game. So if you were to go look at Whit Merrifield, you will see him in there twice with 2 different start times. That is pretty cool. Let's see here. Any weather notes that you saw? I think potentially there might be a little in Pittsburgh and a little in Kansas City once again, but it did not look like anything was imminent.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that was like threatening games.
All right, let me get this going here. Let's get this window up, and I will kick you off. I'll get the tweet out, and we will get going here because we have a full weekend of wall-to-wall baseball, and that, my friends, is going to be a lot of fun. So starting off with the 210 game, we have none other than Manny Banuelos going against Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson's kind of grown on me throughout the evening, Adam, and he's someone I'm definitely considering on the 2-pitcher sites. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with our first game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's a good pitcher. I think that it's a pretty decent matchup against the White Sox. We know that there are strikeouts in that lineup. Gibson comes into the game with a 24.2% strikeout percentage, just a 6.2% walk percentage. So that's good to see. You know, not putting additional guys on base. 3.44 xFIP is solid. He's a good pitcher. I think that, you know, 8,500 on DraftKings is maybe a little bit expensive, but there's not a real solid mid-range. So I think that, you know, getting to Gibson is a pretty reasonable way to go.
All right. If you were going to target against him with any of the hitters, what would you like to do there from the Chi Sox?
Would be mostly interested in left-handed power against Gibson. So not sure if – yeah, okay, so we do have their lineup. So, I mean, Yoan Moncada at 4,500 on DraftKings. No, Yonder Alonso's down to 7th. He's a guy that you could get to in tournaments just as, you know, a low-owned, high-upside play. But Moncada would be my top guy here.
All right. And I'm assuming your stance has not changed since we did the Early Bird podcast. You're still not interested in Banuelos?
No. Just not that good of a pitcher in a really brutal matchup here against Minnesota. Banuelos has struck out 22% of hitters this year, but he's walked 13%. And this is not a team that you really want to be putting extra guys on base against. Tons of power in this lineup. Still no Nelson Cruz, which, you know, takes one good bat out of the lineup, but still a dangerous spot. I'd much rather be getting to Minnesota bats here.
All right. Let's continue along here. The next one's going to be kind of interesting. So we do have the Yankees and the Royals. Now, they're going to be our doubleheader team. They're on both the early main slate, which is 3 games on FanDuel. It's the first 3 games in the 2 o'clock hour. It's the very early slate. Then they are running the 4 o'clock games. They're skipping that 3 o'clock one. DK is going for the first 10 games starting at 2 o'clock. They also have a 4 o'clock slate. And then Yahoo, of course, kicks off with every game through the end of the slate whenever they start said slates. So in this one here, we've got I think they finally confirmed it's going to be J.A. Happ. There had been some questions about if they were going to do the opener, which was going to be Chad Green, and then whoever's coming in behind him. But it sounds like it is going to be J.A. Happ in this one. He'll be going against a team that is much improved here in the Royals, both from on the base paths perspective as well as from a power perspective, since most of their better hitters are from the right side of the plate with Soler, Dozier, Mondesi, Merrifield, etc. Here we've got Nicky Lopez leading off. He has yet to get his first major league steal, but if it's going to happen, I suspect it'll happen in today's doubleheader because the Yankees are among the worst catchers in the league at preventing stolen bases. Give us your take on Happ and Junis, and then let's talk some hitters.
Yes, I mean, on one hand, Happ is kind of appealing, like just because of the slate, because the mid range here is weak, but he really hasn't been good this year, and I think it's legitimately concerning because you're talking about his strikeout percentage now being down to like 18.5%. He has basically the lowest strikeout percentage on the slate, with the exception of Jason Vargas. So not really where you want to be. He's not walking a lot of guys, which is good, but giving up home runs, not striking guys out. And the reason that I think that's more alarming than it would be for some other pitchers that have lower strikeout totals than we expected is that other than the last year and a half, Happ wasn't a high strikeout pitcher. He got really good at working his fastball up in the zone, getting swings and misses, but that was kind of a blip on the radar over an otherwise pretty mediocre career in terms of strikeouts. So it does concern me that he's back down to the 18% strikeout range, and I think that the Kansas City lineup is pretty scary. I mean, we know that there are some strikeouts in it, but Merrifield, Mondesi, and Dozier all have power from the right side, and Happ isn't lights out against lefties either. So Nicky Lopez and Alex Gordon both could give him some trouble. Soler's got a bunch of power from the right side. It's not the easiest matchup for him. So I don't have him projected that highly. I don't think I get to a lot of him. The only real argument in his favor is just the price point.
Yeah, and on Yahoo, probably not on Yahoo, on FanDuel, where it's just the first 3 games, I think for myself, I'm going to mostly go with Kyle Gibson. I would look towards Tyler Mahle, and we'll get to him in a moment, as my potential pivot. But those are really the only guys I like. There is some wind blowing out in Chicago, so we'll break that down in just a moment. We don't yet have a Yankees lineup here, Adam. Who are you hoping is in it? I mean, I'm thinking Sanchez is probably going to play both these games. One is the DH and one behind the plate. But is there anybody you'd really have fingers crossed that is in the lineup going against Jake? Oh no, I gave up another home run, Junis.
I mean, just the regular guys. You want power bats against Junis, and that's generally what you're going to get here with guys like Sanchez and Torres. Clint Frazier is a guy that I think normally goes a little bit overlooked in the Yankees lineup because he bats 6th or 7th, but he has massive power too. Luke Voit, I mean, Aaron Hicks obviously is reasonably priced too. So just the normal guys that probably are or that are in the lineup, pretty much every day.
All right, I've got some fun stuff here as we continue through a little bit of our housekeeping. I'm going to drop, this is the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article. It's a free article, but the best part about it, right there up at the top, is the instructions in the link on how you can claim your Yahoo initial deposit bonus, which is up to $30 matched in Yahoo Sports Rewards points, which are just as good as cash. And then I wanted to call out that Yahoo is running a rake fee free tournament, a management free tournament again today, and it is already filled. Gamers, you can't sleep on these. They put one out there last night. It was just $2,000, $3 entry fee, and then no management fee on it. But their management fees are low anyway, just 12%. You have winnable payout structures here, and we've also got some interesting pricing. So that's something you can always take advantage of on Yahoo, because they have a 10 entry cap, no CSV uploads. And while you will see some of the more recognizable names that you hate seeing on DraftKings, FanDuel, etc., it's your 10 against their 10. Much, much more even playing field. And even I think I can take out one Adam Ship my money when it's 10 on 10.
You can't.
No. What about on Thrive? No.
Josh can.
There we go. Had to get Josh. Josh, I know he's lying there with one eye open, saying, "God, will this day ever end?" With his sodium intake spiking. It'd be funny if he had to get a physical today. That would make me laugh. All right. Anything else in this New York Kansas City game before we discuss the final 2 o'clock game?
I mean, Junis is a viable option in tournaments.
Oh.
You're not going there in cash games or anything, but the mid range is pretty dead on this slate, and there's a lot of bats that we're going to want. So, 6,200 Junis before yesterday's game was postponed. I was getting him in like 25% of my lineups in this spot. It wasn't anything that I had confidence in, but it's just that bats win you tournaments and pitching, normally doesn't. You have a 6.5 implied run total for Minnesota. You have just so many good, hitting spots. You have a win game in Wrigley. So I think that you're going to want to pay for bats. And if Junis can just throw, 90 pitches and get you like 12 points, you're probably fine.
All right. Now this is so. Of course, I'll be the everyman, the fish take, if you will. Junis has allowed 10 home runs in 55 innings so far this season. Adam, if we reach back to the beginning of last year, he has allowed 42 home runs, second to only Dylan Bundy, who has allowed 53.
Yeah, I mean it's not a good spot. I'm not saying that it is, but it's just when you're to win tournaments, you just need to give yourself as much upside as possible. It's not about trying to predict like exactly what happens or being right a high percentage of the time. It's just about getting as much upside into your lineups as you can and getting a pitcher at on the 2 pitcher sites that is really, really cheap and is fully stretched out and has the ability to go deep into a game if he pitches well. It just gives you the opportunity to get a bunch of good bats into your lineup.
All right, I've got my numbers here up. So this was with regards to the stolen bases. So Kansas City leads the league with 48 steals on 68 attempts. The White Sox and Rangers this was heading into last night's game, were 35 of 46. Cleveland is 33 of 40, or both of the White Sox and Rangers are 35 of 46. Cleveland is 33 of 46. Adalberto Mondesi leads the league with 17. Billy Hamilton is 6th with 9. Whit Merrifield is 10th with 8. So definitely give those guys considerations on both slates. Our final 2 o'clock game here, Adam, is the Chicago Cubs. I'm just calling up the weather page here, hosting the Cincinnati Reds. We have a 4.8 implied team total for the Reds, 5.8 implied team total for the Cubbies. It is going to be 75 at first pitch. We have a 10 to 12 mile an hour wind blowing out to right center. Now, we have seen with the renovations that happened a couple years ago that Wrigley Field is not the same, oh my God, Wrigley Field, it's windy, but it still doesn't exactly help things here, even with the additions and changes to the buildings around the stadium. You have Tyler Mahle coming in as a potential swerve play into the teeth of the Cubs. And then you got Yu Darvish. Now, I sort of dismissed him offhand, but I was looking at some of his numbers. 3 of his last 4 starts have been pretty good. Adam, walks still a big concern of his. What do you like with either of these hurlers?
Not a whole lot. I think that Mahle is good. I think that moving forward, he'll be someone that we're looking to in more favorable matchups. But this isn't one of them because, not only do you have the wind blowing out in Wrigley, but you have a left-handed heavy lineup for the Cubs. That's still something that Mahle struggles with compared to how he does against righties. Against left-handed hitters this year, he's only struck out 18.3%. He has a 375 expected WOBA allowed, 226 expected ISO. Those still aren't good numbers. You're seeing him, I think, improve a bit. He's doing a better job of working his fastball in on lefties, getting in on their hands and having some success there. But the splits are still drastic between righties and lefties. And you're getting a Cubs team that has a lot of lefties that have power, and not a lot of strikeouts in the lineup. Out of the first 6 hitters, there's only 2 righties, and they're Chris Bryant and Javi Baez, so it's not like they're easy outs. Schwarber, Rizzo, Hayward, Caratini, I think all are good plays here. Schwarber probably one of the highest owned players on the slate, but for good reason. So I'm not really looking to go to Mahle here just because there's not a lot of strikeouts in addition to a lot of hitters that are on the wrong side of the split for him. So not really getting there. Darvish, I think, is a little bit more appealing. The Reds, not as much power in their lineup as the Cubs have. Darvish does have good strikeout stuff. It's just a matter of his walks. I don't think that I really get to either pitcher here because they're both relatively expensive. I think that it's more likely that my standard builds are to pay up for one of, Carrasco, Gibson, Corbin, or Morton, and then to just kind of rotate through the actual like cheap SP2s. But if I had to take one of the pitchers here, I would lean toward Darvish.
All right. We just got a couple lineups in. From the FanDuel perspective, this wraps up the very early slate. Kyle Gibson, Yu Darvish, and J.A. Happ are the three most popular pitchers, with Gibson leading the way. Tyler Mahle's coming in at about 10%. Let's see. Let's look at that Yankees lineup. Mostly what we're expecting: Hicks, Voit, Sanchez, Gleyber Torres batting cleanup, Clint Frazier, Brett Gardner, Giovanni Urshela, Thairo Estrada, and then Cam Maven is batting last. What do you think about Chris Bryant? Is he like a top 25 hitter or something in the league?
Yeah, it's not even close.
Okay. Are you sure? Maybe he's like 27th, 28th?
He's like top like 15, top 20.
Okay. Just wanted to check. I know that was a little Twitter kerfuffle out there last weekend, which is always fun. We've got a holiday weekend. That's when DFS Twitter usually gets pretty good outside of All-Star Breaks. All-Star Breaks is always DFS Twitter gold. Check out the various Awesemo Twitter handles we have out there. We've got NBA, we've got MLB, we've got weather, we've got the Awesemo odds, and most of them are doing various contests here with some giveaways. So check that out. Get yourself some swag, potentially a premium subscription. I know they're giving away some weekly and monthly contests. Just follow whatever the pinned tweets are or the contest tweets and have some fun. Get behind the paywall. That's where the real magic happens here. Moving on to our 3 o'clock game, we have the San Diego Padres in Toronto taking on the Blue Jays. Edwin Jackson has pitched for a major league record 14 teams. I did go back and look at him. He did actually in 2017 pitch for both Baltimore and the Washington Nationals. That was his second time around with the Nationals. They loved him so much in 2012 when he was a full-time starter for him. They brought him back. In any event, props to him. That is a record that's going to be hard to be beat. I'm not really interested in Jackson all that much, neither with Cal Quantrill. We know that this game is only on the all-day slates or on sites not called FanDuel. It's sort of a whole lot of meh for me. I'm not really fired up for the pitchers, not really fired up for the hitters. What would you like to do with this lone 3 o'clock outpost game?
Yeah, I mean, both of these pitchers are cheap. Both teams have high strikeout percentages, but I don't believe in either pitcher either. For the Padres, you do have a lot of, or for both teams, really, you have power in the lineup that I would, kind of lean towards because you have very appealing price tags on both of these teams. A 5 implied run total for the Padres, 4.6 for Toronto, a good San Diego bullpen, a bad Toronto bullpen. So certainly leaning towards the San Diego bats here, but I would think that maybe I get some exposure to the pitchers in 150 max tournaments, but I have both of them behind Junis and behind Ulysses Chassin, who we'll talk about. So I don't expect to get a lot of exposure to the pitching here. Franmil Reyes still just gives you a ton of upside in tournaments because he has legitimate power and he's still priced in the mid-range of outfielders. So in tournaments where you're just looking for that guy that can hit 2 home runs, he has a higher percentage chance of doing it than most guys priced around him. Manny Machado is still a bit underpriced. Hunter Renfroe's at a reasonable price point for his power. And then don't sleep on Josh Naylor. He didn't come through yesterday, but he's still on DraftKings. He's still 2,800. He batted 6th yesterday. Probably will hit there again. Has the platoon advantage against Jackson. In the minor leagues, he's a very low strikeout percentage guy. His power numbers ticked up this year, but he also was playing in the PCL. Steamer projects him for a 143 ISO this year in the majors, but he does, have 70 grade raw power. The upside is certainly there for him at a cheap price tag. And then on the other side, Quantrill really just hasn't done much to impress so far. He has struck out 10% of lefties, 26% of righties in his limited time in the majors, giving up a ton of power to lefties in particular. Looking to guys like Justin Smoke or Rowdy Tellez, both really good plays. Unfortunately, outside of FanDuel, you can't play them together. But also Vlad Guerrero and Randall Grichuk, just big time power bats. Don't have the platoon advantage that we would like, but just better hitters than their price tag suggests.
All right, on to the 4 o'clock games here. A couple things we're going to do. One, we're going to talk about Pat Corbin, because we have the Nationals bullpen, who, wait for it, is now the worst in the league. They have surpassed, or is it fallen behind? I'm not sure, depending on your perspective. The Baltimore Orioles. Last night, Kyle McGowan was only able to go 4 innings, so the bullpen had to pick up an extra 5 innings. This was a rough one. There was a 12-10. The Nationals hit 2 home runs in the 8th to take care of business here and actually get a win. They are still 11 games under 500 and just 4 games ahead of Miami Marlins. Oh, it's not a good time to be a Nats fan, but I believe it's time to be a Patrick Corbin fan. Are you ready to earmark your salary cap and jam him in some lineups, as touts are wont to say?
I'm probably not getting to a lot of them today, just because of pricing. He's really good. He's got the 3rd highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Carrasco and Morton. He hasn't been as effective this year as he was last year, but he's still a good pitcher. It's a favorable matchup against Miami. Not as many strikeouts against lefties for them as against righties, but still a good spot. 19.9% strikeout percentage with just a 67 WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year. The problem is just the pricing relative to Carlos Carrasco across the industry. On DraftKings, Carrasco is 10-4, Corbin's 11-2 or 11-5. On FanDuel, he's 11-2, and Carrasco is 10-4. And then on Yahoo, $59 for Corbin, $45 for Carrasco. It just gets really difficult to make that jump. The exception would be if ownership projections have a ton more ownership going to Carrasco, then maybe you start to consider just finding that money. But people like paying up for pitching. People know that it's a good spot for Corbin. So I doubt that you get a huge ownership difference between them. And I just think that, I have Corbin projected for like 1 point more than Carrasco. It's not worth paying that much more money for him.
That Yahoo price point is dramatic. So a good point there. I've not yet made my lineups. I did register my 10 in that management fee free contest that has now folded. But keep an eye out. I think they're going to run those through the rest of the weekend. They put that one up early last night, right after the main slate locked. So don't run, don't walk, race over there when they post those management fee-free contests. It looks like we're going to see a decent chance here with the Marlins to go entirely righty, which is interesting. But as you pointed out, Corbin still good against righties. 30%, no, that's against lefties. 29% strikeout rate since the beginning of last season across 800 righties. But as you noted, not a lot of inherent strikeouts there waiting for him in the Marlins lineup. We've got some ownership updating here, so I'm going to go refresh a couple things. What would you like to do with the Nationals going against Sandy Alcantara?
I have some interest. I mean, I don't think they're in as good a spot as the Twins or the Yankees or the Cubs game. So they're not a top stack for me. I do think Alcantara has talent. I think he's a good pitcher. I think he's got a lot of future potential, but it is still pretty nice hitting weather in Washington. It is still a Washington offense that's almost entirely healthy now and has power in their lineup, and it's a bad Miami bullpen. So I think that it is a high upside spot. They are a potential stack if you're looking to get away from the more popular Yankees and Cubs and Twins. I think that they have that same kind of upside. They just don't come through quite as often, and they're not really favorably priced because the guys that you would really want to include, Rendon and Soto, are both really expensive. Favorable price tag on Matt Adams, $4,100 on DraftKings, but not the cheapest stack. I think that it's a really high upside spot also because the bullpens are worn from last night. But it's just hard for me to get them ahead of some of the other teams.
Yeah, I was just calling that up. The Marlins pretty much pitched everybody in their bullpen last night with the exception of Sergio Romo, who had pitched Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Adam Conley Sometimes he is a starter, but he's in the bullpen. He pitched Thursday and Friday, so I doubt he's going to be available. Harlan Garcia is the one guy who did not go last night that will probably be the fresh arm we see today. Oh, Adam, look, a Wei Yin Chen sighting. I hadn't realized he was in their bullpen. I hadn't realized he was on their team still.
Yeah, so I like the Nats the more like I think through the game. It's just, that there are so many good hitting spots on the slate.
Alrighty, let's look here. Throw out some early ownership discussion on pitching. I'm gonna go here and we'll look at some DK. So it looks like Corbin is coming in at 25%, Kyle Gibson at 25%. Those are two of the pitchers we've spoken about. You've alluded to Carlos Carrasco. He's coming in at 32%. And then Jason Vargas coming off the injured list. He is at 23%. So those will change a little bit as more lineups continue to come in. But just as you're starting to build things, that is, where we currently stand. Anything else from our nation's capital, or shall we continue along?
No, I think that's it there.
Alrighty, we've got let's see, scroll. We've got the Arizona Diamondbacks at the San Francisco Giants. A couple weeks ago, I said, hey, there's not many home runs hit in Giant Stadium. That was not an issue last night, Adam. Arizona almost became the first team. I saw this on Twitter from our pal CJ was quoting from the broadcast. They would have been the first team, I think, in 60 years that scored in every single inning. They didn't quite get there. But 18 runs last night. Goodness gracious. Pour one out for all of my Drew Pomeranz lineups. Very sad night. What do you want to do here with Arizona and San Francisco now that we know the lid has been blown off and they have a full 8.2 run in total for this game?
Not a whole lot here. I think that Arizona kind of is interesting in tournaments. Again, though, there's just so many good offenses on the slate that it's tough to get to. But Suarez does give up power to righties, and San Francisco doesn't downplay right-handed power quite like it does left-handed power. You have a lot of it in this lineup with Ketel Marte, Escobar, Jones, Christian Walker. So it's kind of interesting. It's just that it's tough to really be, advocating for prioritizing a team with a 3.9 implied run total on the slate. Not that I think Vegas run totals mean everything, but just using it as kind of a reference point, there a lot has to go right for that to come through. And I think that there are just higher probability spots that you can go to that are still really low owned. So maybe one-offs being the better idea here, looking especially Ketel Marte with second base eligibility, has a lot of power from the right side. Christian Walker is affordably priced at first base. So that'll probably be my approach, just looking to grab a home run or two against Suarez. And then on the other side, Taylor Clark, not someone that I think really has good stuff. Giants lineup, not really a lineup that can do anything about it. They are cheap, so they're a team that I think you could look to if you're trying to go Corbin plus Carrasco. If you don't buy into my argument that hitting wins tournaments and that I'll just be paying down for my SP2. But the Giants are a team that you could stack up with good pitching. Brandon Belt in particular stands out. Platoon advantage, just 3,900 on DraftKings. He has power. Since 2017, even at home against right-handed pitching, an ISO well over 200. So the park doesn't really affect him all that much. He's had plenty of success there. But in general, it's just not an appealing spot.
All right, look at that. Magically, your old pals hooked us up with a new backdrop, Adam. You, of course, aren't looking at it, but now we are officially touting that we are sponsored by the one and only Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Reminder, if you have not yet signed up and you make your first deposit, use the promo code OSMO to get $30 matched on your first deposit in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. Those are available for immediate use. I'll drop the link there in a moment. Oh boy, Adam, this one for me is not really entering the picture all that much. I got a little bit of Taylor Clark, streaming him in my season-long leagues, but that's about it. Started to look at him just a little bit more, and the $7,700 price tag there on DK, not quite what I was envisioning. But let's see what he is over here on the old Yahoo, because these guys often come in cheap. $26. So $26 for Clark, 29 for Suarez. With that particular lens, would you like either of them, or would you go on Yahoo to someone like Alcantara at 33 in that similar price range?
Yeah, I would take my chances with Clark at basically the minimum price on Yahoo, just because it is a good park. Most of the bats in the Giants lineup are left-handed. He doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, to pay off that price tag, and the matchup and everything is just better than it is for Junis or these other gas can SP2s.
All right, so let's continue maneuvering along here. Let's see, we've got four more 4 o'clock games. It is a robust slate. We have Yusei Kikuchi going against the owner of 2 no-hitters in Mike Fiers. This game is going to be played at first pitch with 62-degree weather, a slight breeze going out to dead center at 5 to 7 miles an hour. The Mariners are I like them in this particular matchup against Oakland. They do have Kyle Seager back. He has been out for the whole season because, I forget what type of injury he had. He is on the downward slope of his career. Hasn't really looked good in a couple years, but he's projected to be batting in the middle of the lineup today. You, of course, have Vogelbach and Encarnacion, who are phenomenal hitters, but they both are first basemen, so it makes lineup construction a little bit tough. And then we got some discount dandies there. You're going to get J.P. Crawford, who is replaced D. Gordon in the lineup. He is their number 1 prospect in the minors, and he's been up. He'll probably be up for another 2 weeks if, in fact, he doesn't stick with the team for the whole year. But we've also got some speed at the bottom of the lineup potentially. Malik Smith resurfaced, Shed Long, another prospect who's up who has okay speed. This is actually turning into a fun season for the Mariners, as long as you don't count on their pitching, because they have given up the most runs in the majors. What do you want to do here with Kikuchi? Would you consider Mike Fiers?
They're both just a little bit more expensive than I would like. I'd rather get to Kyle Gibson in that price range if I'm going to someone there. It's an Oakland team that's a pretty dangerous matchup for Kikuchi. They have a lot of right-handed power, not a ton of strikeouts either, and he's not an elite strikeout pitcher. The only thing really working in these guys' favor is the park. It's a poor hitter's park because it's big. The ball doesn't really fly in this weather and the massive foul territory. So a lot of your foul ball into the stands at every other stadium are outs here. But outside of that, it's just not really a favorable matchup, especially for Kikuchi against these righties. For Fiers, a little bit more favorable because you do have more strikeouts in the Seattle lineup, but you're talking about a pitcher in Fiers that does struggle with power. He's allowed a 227 expected ISO to righties this year while striking out 18.3%. That's not really the recipe that I like going against Seattle, because when you're facing these guys, you don't really want to be pitching to contact with how much power they have. They're also reasonably priced. Kyle Seager expected back in the lineup. That's another difficult out that doesn't strike out a lot. I don't have a ton of interest in the pitching here.
All right. On the other side here, what do you think about the A's going against Kikuchi and yet another poor performing bullpen?
For Oakland, I think it's a decent spot. They're another, cheaper stack that you can get to pretty comfortably. You could probably, I don't think you would really get lineups you like if you tried to go Corbin plus Carrasco plus Oakland, but you could probably go like Carrasco plus Gibson or something like that and get off of those bottom tier pitchers that are really, really scary. You get the problem is just that I think that'll be a popular roster construction, and even more so than, we always talk about individual hitter ownership and individual stack ownership, but the really big thing is trying to not have a popular roster construction. And I imagine that, Oakland plus 2 good pitchers is going to be a popular one here. So if I do stack Oakland, I think I would be more inclined to still take some risk at pitcher and maybe get Oakland plus like an expensive mini stack instead of Oakland plus, 3 cheaper guys and 2 good pitchers like most people are going to do.
All right. Speaking of Oakland, Stephen Piscotty got a home run in the 8th inning. That made me the 4th of our quartet for home run calls to complete. I guess it would be a cycle, perhaps. But Josh got one with Eddie Rosario. Chris got his with Christian Yelich. Jake rolled in with Matt Carpenter, and I had Stephen Piscotty. First time we all 4 have gotten the home run calls correct. on the same night.
Well, I wish you had been wrong.
Oh, how much did currently winnings go down when Piscotti got that one?
Between him and Ray, like 7 or 8K.
Ooh, ouch.
But from Piscotti alone, it was a couple.
All right. Well, there you go. My apologies, but when you're right, you're right. Boom! There we are. Check out in YouTube the chat. I'm dropping in a link to my pinned tweet. Go to the pinned tweet, click on the little hyperlink, and jump in the DK League. You will gain access to the Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest, where I will be playing Fred Van Vliet, which actually over the last 2 games has been very nice, but the contest costs $1. Top 10 are paid out, and if you win while representing Osmo with rocking the Osmo avatar, you will get 1 free month of premium content. Join that league there on DK to get notifications whenever we are running some special contests. And I'm also going to drop the link here to the Osmo site where you can rep the avatar. And if you finish in the top 3 of a tournament with 5,000 or more entries, while having the avatar, follow the instructions on that little article there, you will get 1 free month of Osmo premium content. There's you got to do a few steps, including screenshot and tweet. But what the heck? Why are you going to stay behind or in front of the paywall? Come on back here behind the paywall. That's a lot more fun than just YouTube chat. I'm talking to you, Sean B. I'm talking to you. I know that Josh would love to have you given access to him 24 hours a day. All right, Adam, we're getting back to the proper screens here. Our next game is going to be a pitching discussion. We have Tampa Bay in Cleveland. It's going to be a lovely day there. It's 75 degrees. We have a slight cross breeze of 7 to 8 miles an hour going from third base to first base. Charlie Morton, Carlos Carrasco are taking the respective mound here for their teams. What do you want to do with, and you've hinted on it before, but now everybody's focused on this. What do you want to do with Carlos versus Corbin versus Gibson on these 10-game early slates?
Carrasco is my top pitcher here. Leads the slate in strikeout percentage at 30.4%, 4.2% walk percentage, K-minus BB percentage is 26%. Like leads the slate in all of those, which is obviously really good. PCRA this year, he's top 10, top 15, I think. He's 19th in PCRA at 3.33, which is almost a full run lower than his actual ERA. So, that's good to see. Called strike plus swinging strike percentage is good for him this year as well. He comes in at 16th at 32.1%. All of those things, really, really good. And the matchup here, it's a dangerous matchup as far as Tampa Bay has power. And, they can do some damage against him. It's not a safe matchup, but there are strikeouts there too. So I think that Carrasco is, pretty clearly my number one.
All right. Where would Morton come in as a bit of a swerve play for you?
He actually, in my early stuff at least, isn't projecting well at all. Maybe because Cleveland, for whatever reason, has a 4.6 implied run total. But I think I like him more than my projections do. I bumped him a little bit, but I'm still not going to get to a lot of him just because he is priced so closely to Carrasco. And I expect most of my ownership there to just go to Carrasco. And then I'll probably give a bit more to Kyle Gibson than I give to Morton. The walk rate's concerning. Doesn't go super deep in the games, which you don't really like at that price point either. So, yeah, I mean, I think that he's okay, but he's just someone that I probably don't really get to a whole lot.
All right, we've got projected popularity for Morton on DK at 3% is why I bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, if he's 3%, then I'd probably come in over that. But I would imagine that by our final ownership update, it's a little bit higher.
All right, YouTube chat. Aaron Hodges says he's not, he likes a man who's not afraid to use a heart emoji. There you go. That one's for you, Aaron. Adam, don't ever watch this because I just made a fool of myself. You're supposed to say, what's new, EMAC?
My bad.
Yeah, it's just another day ending in Y in your world. Let me see here. If you were going to pick any hitters to go against the opposing pitchers, From the Rays, I think for me it would be Yi-Man Choi. I believe for Cleveland, I would probably look to Carlos Santana as my smooth pick of the day from these teams. What do you like if you were taking one guy?
Yeah, if you're looking to go against these pitchers, you want left-handed power against Carrasco. So I'm with you. I think Choi is the most favorably priced out of the left-handed power here. Meadows and Lau both offer it. They're just really expensive, which also from a roster construction kind of like portfolio, I guess, standpoint, it's another reason I think I'll get to a lot of Carrasco. I like the idea of stacking this Tampa team against him just for leverage and ownership purposes, but they're so expensive that you're sacrificing a lot to do so. So I don't think it's a spot that I'll actually take. And since I'm not really taking that spot, it makes more sense for me to just be heavy on the Carrasco side and hope that that's the side that wins out. So if I were taking one hitter, it would be Choi from Tampa Bay, and from Cleveland, I guess Lindor.
Okay. Let's see. Ex-Cossack is rolling out there with Ramirez, so they do have some good hitters there, but tough matchup here. But it'll be consideration on the 4:00 slates, just as Adam mentioned, for some differentiation, leverage.
35% strikeout rate for Morton against lefties this year too is obviously really good.
There we are. There we go. All right, back. I've got more tabs open than I know what to do with, but I was going to drop in. This is courtesy of one Jake Hari. I see him lurking in both chats, but he has the Spotlight Pitchers article for us. That is a free offering there in front of the paywall, so give that one a gander. He breaks down a guy from the early slate, two from the early slate, and two from the late slate. These are not necessarily going to be the most obvious plays, but pointing out some reasons why you may want to look at pitchers that are not going to be the chalk, be it from matchup, strategy for leveraging against what the field is doing, etc. We try to make these some thinking pieces. Josh runs the Spotlight Pitchers most of the remainder of the week, and he puts in thoughts on where the popularity is going to be for the main sites and how he is approaching things with his player pool portfolio. That was some alliteration there. Player pool portfolio. Perfect. What is your preference considering price, production, position, and potential upside? Look at that. I've put Adam to sleep. He's so good at ignoring me now. Like, you think Laffy doesn't listen when someone's talking? No. Adam takes it to a whole new level. But he gets that glassy-eyed look. That's how I know for sure. When I can't see those baby blues, I know he's just, oh, yeah, Emacs yammering on about something. All right, back reeling myself in. Let's look here. We've got two more still. 4:00 games. Well, we've delayed the inevitable long enough. Ryan Carpenter is going to be taking the mound there for the Tigers. He is not very good at all. However, neither are the LOL Mets, who are just they lasted for 6 weeks, Adam, before turning into the veritable shit show that they always are. You had Robbie Cano not hustle out 2 grounders, and then what happened? He hustled out a grounder, pulled his hamstring. Adam, he is on the DL. Never hustle, kids. Matt Berry says it best. Never hustle, especially when you're 36 years old. We also know that Michael Conforto is back from the concussion protocol, but Brandon Nimmo is on the DL. And then Yoenis Cespedes, who was on the DL already, fell on his ranch somewhere in Florida, twisted his ankle in a hole, and actually fractured his ankle. Adam, how do you get even more injured when you're already on the injured list? I mean, that's like John Wall next level stuff there.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
All right, what do you want to do with I think JD Davis, the Todd father, who has hit about as many home runs in the last 2 seasons as Miguel Cabrera, Pete Alonso. So I think JD Davis and Alonso are the 2 guys that are worthy of consideration. Carlos Gomez back in our lives. I had not realized he was anywhere other than I just assumed these guys I'm not aware of, like who was it? Chen and Cameron Maben, Carlos Gomez. I assume they're all playing with Jose Canseco on the Newark Bears of the Independent League at any given time. What do you want to do with these horrid Mets against an equally horrid pitcher?
I'm getting some Met stacks here because they are pretty affordable for the most part. The only expensive hitters, Alonso and Conforto, are actually good, so I'm fine getting to them. Ryan Carpenter is terrible. So I like getting the bats against him, obviously, but behind him, you also have a bad bullpen in Detroit. So there's tack on upside throughout the game. I think you have pretty reasonable price points on Rosario, Davis, Frazier. Unfortunately, Davis and Frazier play the same position. But Wilson Ramos, assuming he's in the lineup, is a quality catcher option here as well. They don't grade out as well as Minnesota or the Yankees or the Cubs, for me, or the Nats. But I do think that they're a viable stacking option just because Ryan Carpenter is really, really bad.
Is he as bad as Adrian Sampson, but from the lefty side?
He's worse than Sampson.
Really? Where does he rank against Margevicius?
He's actually worse than Margevicius.
Oh, Margevicius, never to be seen again, according to your tweets. Yikes. Okay, well, that's putting it in perspective there, Adam. Thank you. That frames it nicely. On the other side here, going against Vargas, you have a bunch of punch and Judy hitters. Literally, Miguel Cabrera is, I'm now going to consider him the Tony Gwynn. I mentioned this last night. It seems to fit. He's hitting almost 300, but with no power whatsoever at this point. Adam, he has 1 home run on the year. I will be surprised if he ends up with more than a handful. What do you want to do with any of these guys going against Vargas? I think our short list is going to be Castellanos, Goodrum, and then maybe some salary relief for Dowell Lugal. However, he is third base eligible on a couple of the sites. I don't know that I want to give up the hot corner to someone like him. What do you got for the Motor City Kitties?
I think this is a really interesting spot to talk about because Jason Vargas is actually projecting reasonably well for me, and he's also high in our ownership projections. I don't have any real reason for why he's projecting well other than the Tigers have a 3.9 implied run total. He's making his first start back off the injured list. He threw 74 pitches in his AA rehab start. So I don't anticipate him going really deep into this game. I'm expecting 80, 85 pitches probably. He's struck out since last season. He struck out 20.7% of righties. He's allowed a 232 ISO, 334 expected WOBA. It's not like he has anything going in his favor really, and he's gonna, I guess, be popular just based on our ownership projections and based on the fact that it seems like projection optimizers are just going to spit him out today. I don't want to really get there. I think that he's just as risky as these other pitchers we've talked about, and if the ownership's going to go to him, I'd rather go to the other guys at lower ownership. Not to mention, you can get to Nick Castellanos in particular. I think it's a phenomenal play. Really good hitter, really good against lefties, inexpensive, facing a popular pitcher in Vargas. So sign me up for Castellanos. But yeah, I don't know. Like I got to a lot of Vargas in my initial crunch. I'm just not really happy about it. I'm hoping that once I sort my lineups by, once I start factoring in ownership percentage, that I start getting less Vargas because I really don't think that. I don't think he's worse than other pitchers, and I think the spot is better than it is for Junis or some other guys. But I just don't think he should be getting as much ownership as we currently have him projected for.
All right, we just got that Mets lineup. It's going to be Rosario, Davis, Alonso, Wilson Ramos batting cleanup, Gomez batting fifth, Frazier, Altier, Hechavarria rounding things out. Interesting. Okay, I like Wilson Ramos, definitely. Got a home run last night. Still relatively discounted there on Yahoo, where you do have to play a catcher.
Aaron Altherr at 2,900 on DraftKings is a great value in tournaments.
Did they trade for him? No, he was designated, wasn't he?
Yeah, he went to the Giants, and then they DFA'd him.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Last 4 o'clock game. Some pitching potential here with Yolis Chacin. We have Jake Arrieta and Chacin squaring off. This one is in Miller Park. Sounds like the roof will probably be open. That is not yet confirmed, but it's going to be about 75-80 there at first pitch. Nice day in Milwaukee. You've got Arrieta at 7,500, but that is just a lineup that's pretty tough to tangle with. 5-point implied run total there for the Brew Crew, so no real interest in Arrieta. However, Yolis Chacin is someone I'm a little bit intrigued by. Now, we know he is generally better against righties, not good against lefties, But really, outside of Bryce Harper and Odubel Herrera, not many lefty threats there from Philadelphia. I have a feeling you're going to want to say a few things here about Yolis Chacin. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, he's my, I guess, favorite out of the cheap SP2s.
There was an asterisk. I heard it. I heard
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's not like it's an exciting spot or he's an exciting pitcher or anything like that. The Phillies will make him work. They'll drive up pitch counts. They have a lot of good hitters, but they are mostly right-handed. And Chacin, for his entire career, has been much better against righties than lefties. This year so far, he struck out 21.8% of righties. Since last year, he struck out 23.4%, 289 expected WOBA since last season to righties. Just kind of the best of a bunch of bad options, in my opinion.
Best of a bunch of bad options. That's like being the tallest of the short guys. That's just it's a fact, but not always an exciting one. Let me see here. With regards to going against Arrieta, I really like Christian Yelich. He is almost about to break that $6,000 mark there on DK. You've got Mike Moustakas, who is at 4,900, Yasmani Grandal at 4,600. This is going to be a stack that is going to be expensive, which in turn should keep some of the popularity on it suppressed, Adam. What do you think about the Brew Crew here on the 4 o'clock slate?
Yeah, I think it's a really high upside spot, but it's just really hard for me to prioritize them on this particular slate. Arrieta does not get swings and misses against lefties, but Milwaukee's also really expensive. You're talking about paying almost 6K for Christian Yelich in the outfield where there's a ton of options, almost 5K for Moustakas. Grandal, if he's in the lineup, is a really good catcher option, but as a full stack, they're really expensive, and it'll be tough to get them plus any semblance of pitching that you want. So, if you can get to them, then by all means. But in my initial crunch, I was getting more of a lot of teams.
All right, let me look here. I'm going to put this show up on podcast, so I need to figure out, makes it easier for me. The 51-minute mark is when we're going to start talking about the late slate. So for those of you that have to leave, we'll get this up there as you're out doing yard work, doing errands, etc. here on this Saturday. We'll give you additional first look here at the main slate. We, of course, will have Live Before Lock with myself and Chris Spags at 6 o'clock tonight. It is a 7:15 start. We'll probably go just a skosh there after 6 p.m. We'll get the time updated here on the show. But 6 games on the late slate. We do have that second game of the doubleheader with the Yankees and with Kansas City. Again, keep an eye on the weather there. They'll probably for sure get one of these in, but if they're having issues or it gets to be too late or there are other problems, don't forget they can always go push the doubleheader to tomorrow. So food for thought. Adam, I felt we were talking about that Minnesota Angels game, and you and I both decided this was when we were recording the podcast the other night. We both decided we were going to play it, even though I went and looked and saw that both teams actually had Thursday off, and they could just easily push it to there. I thought because everybody was at the stadium, and I thought they'd get the field going there. Damn it, the one time we don't get conservative. That was a frustrating one. But just keep in mind, doubleheaders, always look to see what's going on next. Holiday weekend here, so it won't be an issue to get it in with everybody playing early tomorrow. They can always do a twilight doubleheader if it is needed. All right, let's look here at our 7 o'clock slate. We have our first matchup is going to be David Price going against Brad Peacock. Price at 8,800, somewhat intriguing until you look at his opponent, and it is the Houston Astros, who are arguably the best team in the league, against Southpaws. On the other side, Brad Peacock, a fine pitcher in his own right, going against one of the best offenses as well in the Boston Red Sox. I don't really think I want either of these pitchers. However, it doesn't mean they're going to have poor outings. We have a 4.1 implied run total for Boston, 4.5 for the Astros. Are you considering either of these hurlers amongst the 12 we are choosing from tonight?
It's a really tough slate because they are both in really bad spots. Obviously, you have two teams that don't strike out and have a ton of good hitting, but they're two of the more talented pitchers on the slate at somewhat reasonable price tags. So I could see maybe getting to some in tournaments, but they're not where I'd be looking in, cash games. And I still kind of doubt that I get to a lot in tournaments either, just because both matchups are so difficult.
All right, that'll be an intriguing one. Check back again live before lock and see what I end up doing as part of a barometer. And then Adam, of course, is going to be writing the deep dive. That's behind the paywall. You'll want to check that out. Reminder to use the promo code MLB Strategy to get 50% off your first, or any 1 month package. It doesn't even have to be your first package with Awesemo. But we also have some WNBA stuff, projections. We've got Alex's rankings. I won 3 tickets, so I parlayed those into about $65 last night, Adam, with the old WNBA. All I was doing was looking at Awesemo's rankings, projections, and then my best Twitter enemy, Seth, also gave me a couple pointers. Nice call there on who was the injured girl? Erica something or other. In any event, Adam, WNBA. Who knew? Today I'm going to be playing some AFL. I'm going to be playing some MMA. We've got NASCAR on Sunday night. That is the Coca-Cola 600 down there in Charlotte. That'll be a good one as well. So we got you covered with all sorts of content. If it has DFS, we got content for it. Tennis even, Adam. Although I have not yet played tennis, we do have tennis content. All right, next game here, we have Mike Soroka, who is a talented pitcher. He's checking in at 9,500 here on DK, going against the Redbirds. St. Louis at home here. They have a 4.5 implied run total. Atlanta has a 5, pardon me, I'm getting dyslexic again, has a 4.5 run total themselves. Dakota Hudson, friend to all hitters that face him. Where are you going to rank Soroka here on the 2 pitcher sites?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's in a bit more favorable spot than Price or Peacock are. The Cardinals, still a really dangerous offense, but very right-handed heavy. Soroka has been good this year. I think he's a little more expensive than he really should be. He's not a huge strikeout guy. Basically relies on command more so than just raw stuff to get strikeouts. So I wish he was a little bit less expensive, but he has struck out 22% of righties this year. He's held them to a 260 expected WOBA with no power. On other slates, I wouldn't really be that interested, but on this one, I think he's one of the I think he's more appealing than the pitcher's price around him in Price and Peacock.
All right. I misspoke. Thank you, chat, and Tom as well. MMA is next week. It's not this holiday week. I won a couple tickets into next week's contest, so I just assumed that was going to be tonight. So a lot of tickets I've won, Adam. It's kind of fun playing that low dollar stuff. Treat it like a winner take all. Put one entry in the quarter or the dollar contests, and you can be getting a bunch of tickets. I got 8 into this $1 million NBA showdown coming up here shortly. I've got a few into the MMA, and then that's why I'm playing AFL, Arena League Football. I've got 5 tickets into that one too. Yikes. I don't even know. I think Baltimore has a team. That's the extent of my Arena League knowledge. How many teams are in the league anymore? I think there's 6?
I have no idea.
It's weird. At one point they had Arena League 2 and a bunch, but I think most of them have folded. All right, back to the task at hand. We've got. Where do you like Matt Carpenter at 3,800 on DK?
Yeah, I'll get there. Just because we have such a long track record of Carpenter being a really good hitter. I know he's been bad, so far this year, but there's more reason to believe that from this point forward, he's the hitter that he has been for years than that he suddenly, can't hit a baseball anymore. It's not a good matchup against Soroka, but there's only 5 games to choose from, and he's affordable. So he's, I think, a pretty good play.
Yeah, and I bring that up because he's one of the guys I happened to cross their season-long numbers, and I thought, wow, that's not what I was expecting to see. But if we remember last year, he was just god-awful, sub-200 batting average or in that neighborhood for the first 5-6 weeks of the season, and then he ended up hitting a career high, 36 home runs. So, yeah, 3,800, that's going to be tough to pass on, even against Soroka. Let's see, we've got We've got the Dodgers at Pittsburgh. This is one of the games that might have a little bit of weather. You'll have to check back later since there are still 7 hours before first pitch. Again, first pitch is at 7:15 tonight. You've got Hyunjin Ryu checking in as the most expensive pitcher on the slate, arguably the most talented one as well, going against Joe Musgrove. Musgrove 6,800 brings him into consideration here as an SP2. However, the Dodgers are still a pretty scary lineup. They are carrying a 4.7 implied run total here. The hope is that Musgrove is just able to survive, for lack of a better word, as your SP2 and not kill you. What do you want to do first off with Ryu at that price point? I'm going to pull up and see if they have ownership for the late slate here.
Yes, I mean, with Ryu, it's a really expensive price point, but he's also been really, really good this season. It is a favorable matchup against the Pirates, who are less imposing against left-handed pitching than they are against right-handed pitching. 27.4% strikeout percentage for Ryu this season, just a 1.9% walk percentage, 2.72 xFIP. He's just been outstanding, and it gets a favorable matchup here. He has the fourth best PCRA out of qualified starters this year, behind only Blake Snell, Garrett Cole, and Chris Sale. So really, really good company there for him. Pitching like a legitimate ace, getting deep enough into games that you can kind of treat him like he's deserving of this price point. So I'm going to do what I can to get to him. It's tough to get a ton because of it being a Coors slate with an $11,000+ pitcher, but any Ryu I get to, I'm very, very happy with. I think that he's pretty clearly the number one pitcher here based on talent and matchup.
He is coming in at 40% owned there for the main slate on Yahoo as the projected. He is $51. The other guys that are around him in price are all $7 to $9 lower. That would be Minor at 44, who we'll get to, Soroka at 42, David Price at 41. Musgrove not in play on Yahoo, in my opinion, at 41. I'd rather roll the dice with some of these other guys. The most popular guy you're going to get is Tyler Skaggs. He's coming in at 62%. He's checking in at $33. We'll get to that game as well. Musgrove. How nervous are you with him going against Peterson, Muncy, Bellinger, Seager, who's hitting better, finally rounding into form, knocking the rust off, potentially Alex Verdugo? That's a boatload of lefties they're going to send at him tonight. That could be a bit of an Achilles heel.
Yeah, really scary spot. Dodgers, one of the best offenses in baseball, up there with the Astros. Not a ton of strikeouts here, tons and tons of power, just really good hitters, predominantly left-handed. If you roster Musgrove, it's only in tournaments, and it's just because of the price point and the talent level. He is better in general. He's better than a $6,800 pitcher. I don't have interest on Yahoo at $41. I don't have interest on FanDuel where you roster one pitcher, but on DraftKings at $6,800, he's better than that price point in terms of talent. So that would be like the argument in his favor. Against lefties this year, he's only struck out 18.2%. He's done a good job of limiting power with a 120 ISO, 129 expected ISO. But that strikeout percentage combined with the lack of strikeouts amongst a lot of these Dodgers hitters and how much power they have, like I would rather be getting the Dodgers bats here than getting the Musgrove.
All right. They're asking me if I've tried the Baconator yet in chat. No. But my wife, I did mention something about the Baconator, and she said Five Guys sounds good for lunch today. So
yeah,
there we go. There we go. Let me see. Of course, that means I'm going to have to go out and get some topsoil. Have a nice little day planned. Maybe go to Home Depot. What is it? Ooh, Dad's emailing me. Nice. Let me see. Bed Bath & Beyond, perhaps. We'll see. Let's continue along here. We have the Yankees and the Royals. Again, the theory being that there is a doubleheader that should get in today. It looks like they will be opening with, where are my notes? Chad Green, like they did on Sunday. He will probably go maybe one inning and change, depending on how efficient he is. And then it will either be Nestor Cortez Jr. or why am I blanking on the other guy? Luis Sessa. In there, Nestor Cortez Jr. was optioned back down to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, but he did not pitch. He pitched behind Green on Sunday for 76 pitches, so he would be good to go. They haven't implied who's going to go. Potentially all three of them will, but it's going to be a bunch of righties. Point being here. So assuming righties against the Royals in this evening matchup, who are you looking at?
So the game's only on Yahoo, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, like, in the context of what are the other options. So if
it's on FanDuel as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you're not going to pitching on FanDuel.
Right.
And probably on Yahoo, you don't need to mess around with Cortez. Like, if this were on the DraftKings slate and he was 4K, it would be kind of interesting. But I think that you can probably get to, like, Ryu plus Peacock and still get, or not Peacock, Ryu plus Skaggs and still get some decent bats. So yeah, not really on the pitching here. Probably not really on Kansas City either, just because I think that you're going to want to spend money on cores. If I were looking to hitters here, I probably would look to the right-handed power against Jorge Lopez. Also, Aaron Hicks at just $13 is a really good value play, as is Clint Frazier at 13 in tournaments.
Good call-outs. I'm just looking to see who else is intriguing. If it's if Romine's catching, or who's it? Higashioka, thank you. Don't forget about Billy Hamilton. He's 9. You're hoping for a couple steals, but that would be the matchup to get them in. Again, mileage may vary on this one. Keep an eye on the weather and make sure you know which slates it is on, or pardon me, which contest sets it is on. Again, Yahoo, a lot of fun there that they're allowing you to pick hitters from either of the double headers. Just make sure you click on the right start time for the game you're intending to play them. 2 games left. Adam, this is where a lot of the offense is hiding out. It's Coors Field. You have Andrew Cashner going against Kyle Freeland. You have a 5.2 implied run total there for the Baltimore Orioles, a tick shy of 7 for the Rockies. I think the play of the day is going to be Keon Broxton. 7 on Yahoo. That is going to be hard to pass up if he makes the lineup. He did last night and homered. He is 3,500 there on DK. He's one of your favorite players, now playing for your favorite team. Do you want to spend a few words on him and then lead us through the rest of the Orioles?
Yeah, so I mean, he's just still really cheap, probably batting around 6th in Coors Field. He strikes out a ton. He has a lot of power and a lot of speed. So that's just, a really nice price point for a guy in Coors. So I'll be playing a lot of Broxton again, assuming he's in the lineup. But what I think is actually really interesting here is Kyle Freeland. He's not been good this year, but he on DraftKings is $5,500. And so like when you talk about SP2s, if you're looking to, spend up on bats, you're talking about, like Joe Musgrove against the Dodgers for 1,300 more. I think I would rather just go down to Freeland at 5,500. He really hasn't been good, but the Orioles aren't the most imposing team. And at 5,500, you kind of just need him to get through like 5-6 innings and not get completely destroyed, and you're in an okay spot. So I think I'll probably end up with some Freeland and not be super happy about it, but that's just kind of how the slate looks right now.
All right. From the Rockies side of things, had a couple 2 home run games there with Arenado and Story. What do you like going against Cashner here, who is the dog with the least amount of fleas amongst the Orioles righties?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is he's had issues with right-handed power in particular this year. He's been better than previous seasons overall, but he's allowed a 322 expected ISO and a 420 expected WOBA to righties. You look at Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado, another really good spot for them. Ian Desmond and Brendan Rodgers, a tier below them, but also cheaper. And then the lefties in this lineup are good, especially David Dahl. We know has power and speed. He's reasonably priced. More expensive price tags on Murphy and Tapia, so they would kind of come in as like my least favorite guys from the Rockies, but I still like them a lot. So, any Rockies you can get, you should be pretty happy with.
All right, dropping that Spotlight Hitters link in the chat. Again, that second paragraph there has the link to join Yahoo along with the instructions on how to turn your first DFS deposit into $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, which are available for immediate use and just as good as cash. Check that out. Use the promo code AWESEMO and come in on that link when you make your first deposit. It helps us out and will be helping you out as well. All right, Adam. Final game here. Chat thinks if they say if I'm the Baconator guy, that you look more like a pulled pork sandwich kind of guy.
Yeah, I like pulled pork.
All right, there you go. Winner, winner, right there, chat. Final game here. We've got. So talk a little bit about what they've done with the Angels ballpark and how it has changed things, and not a lot of people have caught on to that yet.
Yeah, they lowered the wall in right field, so I think they lowered it like 8 feet. It's made it a much more favorable park for hitters. It's giving up a lot more home runs than it was in the past. Not that you still obviously get the relatively mild weather to keep it from being a true like hitter's paradise, but the park plays a lot more favorably for hitters. Not sure how much we can take advantage of that here in this particular game. You have Mike Minor as a good pitcher facing an Angels team that doesn't strike out. So I'm not really looking to pay up for Minor, but I don't really like taking a ton of guys against him either. Mike Trout is $4,800 on DraftKings. That's a really cheap price point, so that's worth pointing out. But in general, just don't really like taking guys there. And then Tyler Skaggs, I think, is like the number one SP2 on the slate if you can afford him. 7,300 facing a Texas team that's very left-handed heavy, has plenty of strikeouts in their lineup. So this isn't a game that I'm really looking to get the hitters.
Yeah, when I was looking at it last night, I was going to give this one some consideration here for the offense, just because of the boost in the change in the right field fence going from 18 feet to 8 or 10 feet. And the more I look at it, the less I'm getting there. But it really stood out to me. Trout at 4,800 on DK and Ohtani at 3,700. Yes, it's a lefty-lefty matchup there for Ohtani, but that is a very nice price point. He has not done great thus far this season, but he is a good hitter as well. That's going to wrap up the slate here. Any overarching thoughts as you approach two giant slates on this holiday Saturday?
In general with baseball, just keep in mind that you don't win tournaments by being right a huge percent of the time. You win tournaments by putting yourself in a position to maximize your money when the field is wrong, and that's not really true. It's not more true in any sport than baseball because there is so much variance here. So it's just whenever you're building tournament lineups, like if you are someone that hand builds and you're not just letting your automated process make your lineups for you, and you're actually thinking about stuff, just don't be afraid to make uncomfortable plays in baseball because that's going to normally lead to more money as long as they're calculated risks.
All right, one last time, drop the link to my pinned tweet over there on Twitter in chat. Join that DK Osmo League. That will get you the notifications as we put out some bonus contests. Tonight's bonus contest is one premium month full access of Osmo content. If you win this contest, just $1. Top 10 are paid out. There's 50 people it must run to fill. If you win and are representing the Osmo avatar, you will be eligible for 30 free days of premium content. That does include the premium Slack. Sean V, get in there and have some fun. We're going to get on out of here. Adam's got some writing to do. I'm going to start making my lineups and then get ready for that main slate. We'll be coming in just after 6 o'clock tonight with Live Before Lock. You will get myself and one Chris Spags breaking down the 6 games that are available for our gaming pleasure. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. I am at EmacDFS. And of course, it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.